Thank you, Shivangi. Thanks again, Rahul. Now, ICS21, hashtag ICS21. That's the hashtag where the conversations are alive on social media. A big round of congratulations to all the winners of all the cool giveaways through the day. And if you're watching, you could also win some. Just connect in and join the discussions on the hashtag ICS21 on LinkedIn and Twitter. And with that, I'd now like to hand over the virtual stage to Ashwani Mishra, Executive Editor at DynamicCIO.com, and he's hosting Sumit Malhotra, Chief Information Officer and Business Leader at Times Internet, and Anuj Joshi, the VP of IT at Evalueserve, in this panel discussion on reinventing cloud, connecting to an accelerated future. Over to you, Ashwani.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Ashwin, for the introduction. Welcome, Sumit. Welcome, Anuj. It is great to have you join this conversation. Right, in recent times, we have seen an increase in the adoption of cloud by companies in order to digitize quickly, effectively, and stay competitive. In this race towards digital adoption, it is essential that enterprises keep innovating their products and services. At the same time, they are also required to take these services to their customers as quickly as possible, and in some cases, in a matter of few hours. As enterprises move towards this business modernization, their ability to view workloads with a futuristic perspective becomes more critical. Sumit, let's start with you. Times Internet is a leader in the digital media space, has its data center and infrastructure spread across multiple geographies. How have you approached your cloud strategy, one, to address your current needs, and second, to strengthen your move towards modernization and be future ready?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. At Times Internet, we started with an on-prem journey about a little more than a decade ago. And then I think since 2013-14, we started embracing hybrid cloud, and we've been hybrid cloud since then. I think the challenge which we foresee when we adopted hybrid cloud was that when you start adopting multiple clouds, you start to lose on agility. So there are two. So if I talk about agility, and I also have to talk about compliance or security. So I think they go in reverse of each other. So you have to find a balance of somehow you don't lose out on agility, but continue to be compliant or as secure as you can. But when you actually are using hybrid cloud, which with different standards, with different configurations and different change windows, different new features being built up every day, it's very difficult for you to train your people on multiple technologies, especially when you actually have a large tech force and with people coming in like every month. So what we built up was we felt that while agility is way more important for us than anything else, we obviously cannot lose out on the importance of being compliant to industry framework, making sure our experience which we deliver not just are amazing, but they are as secure as they can. So we built a orchestration layer for ensuring that people can provision workloads across multiple clouds. So that orchestration layer ensures that the workloads which are provisioned by our tech teams are in compliant with our governance framework from day one. It's not that somebody has to go dig up and say, hey, you have missed something here, because that person maybe did not have an expertise on, let's say, cloud A. And when we moved him to cloud B, he actually lost the whole perspective. Second thing, which is very important, especially when you actually have a fleet of large servers and farms, is you don't want to get logged into one provider, because in the end, you lose out on your cost efficiencies and the whole negotiation just goes down the drain. So you want to make sure that you're always portable. The cloud platforms which we have built ensures that we are portable. If I have to move from one cloud, whether it's on-prem or to a public cloud, by either provider, I can just move my workloads, even if, like, say, they are in thousands or millions of containers, I can just pick them up and drop them somewhere else and it'll just work. So we invested on all this over the years, and right now we are reaping benefits of it. And I think one has to make sure that you actually embrace people, like you empower innovation by embracing cloud as much as you can, but you don't lose out by locking yourself in. So our motto is pretty simple. You should have affairs with all the clouds. So have an affair, but don't get married to one. If you decide to get married to one, make sure you do it very thinking very thoroughly.
Right. Very interesting thoughts, Sumit. So yes, having a balanced approach wherein you empower people to carry out innovation and at the same time ensure that you're secure, compliant with the norms there. We'll come back to some key points that you raised, Sumit, as we progress in this discussion. Anuj, let's hear from you. As a leading provider of proprietary solutions and services for research, analytics, and data management, what has been Evalueserve's approach to cloud?
Good afternoon, everyone. We adopted private cloud some way back in 2010, public cloud in 2011, followed by hybrid cloud. So we have all the three mix and matches of cloud. And, let me do a very quick move forward. In 2020, the entire planet Earth saw the benefit. When we started our career, I'm talking about 30 years back, there were no such, cloud engagements. The world was very simple and beautiful. You have site A, you have site B serves as DR for site A, and so on and so forth. So it used to be a very straightforward approach. In 2000, early 2000 also, the approach used to be very simple. You have site A, site B, site C, site D, each becomes the DR for the other one. What COVID did, COVID taught us a lesson. COVID taught us a lesson, and let me tell you from the Evalueserve standpoint. Gurgaon was impacted, Mumbai was also impacted, Bangalore was impacted, China was impacted, Romania was impacted, US went down, South America went down. So the question was not of choice. COVID gave us no choice but to move to cloud. Where would you go? You don't have any place on this planet Earth where you would build up your data center and say, hey, I'm safe. There wasn't any place. The only option left out was cloud. Now, whether you like it or not, whether you think about the compliances and security, you were short of choices. And that's when people started innovating. They started innovating. Should I? Shouldn't I? To what extent? Where? Google Cloud, Amazon, AWS, Azure, all kinds of permutation combinations started building up. Those who already embraced the cloud, the journey was very simple because you have to push certain workload from on-premise to cloud so that people can work seamlessly. And the compliance and the security follows that. Those who were not into cloud, they were left with two choices. Either you shut down or you embrace cloud. There was no other choice. So people who were a bit reluctant about adopting cloud also started learning and then moving on to cloud. Now, in this middle of doing all this, to and fro, those who already were aware of cloud engagement, for them the journey was pretty smooth, slightly difficult in some senses, but it was pretty smooth ride. Those who were not into that ended up in, goofing up with, they thought cloud is going to give me everything and anything free of cost. And that's where, and that is the reason why in 2020 and 2021, you saw the maximum number of ransomware attacks and, breaches and so on and so forth. They were at its peak and they will continue to be in its peak till the time you are moving on to cloud with half knowledge.
Right. And so while we were talking of the multi-cloud as well, Anuj, so you said that you were early adopters of public and private cloud. Now, again, how do you view the multi-cloud approach in today's scenario?
Multi-cloud has got a very simple one-liner principle. See, there is no perfect phone in this world. There is no perfect laptop in this world. There is no perfect cloud provider in this earth. Every cloud provider has got something unique. Otherwise, it's a simple, it's a simple concept. You build up a data center, You spin up servers, you give the instances. That's the concept of cloud computing, right? You add security on top of that. Somebody has got AI, somebody has got visualization, somebody has got Kubernetes, somebody has got the messaging service. So there are pros and cons of each and every cloud. Fundamentally, there is absolutely nothing. If you know one cloud service provider and you actually know it, adopting the other cloud provider is very easy. The difficult part is how to manage and integrate the clouds. That's where engineering comes into picture, because one cloud provider will always try to dominate than the other one and say, hey, I am superior, put my applications over me. This will say, hey, I've got this benefit, my security is much more powerful than you, put my applications over my infrastructure. So it's a question of managing the balance between the two, knowing the pros and cons of each and everyone, and knowing the fact that ultimately both the cloud provider or tri-party cloud provider or four-party cloud providers are actually my applications, holding my application. So they have to talk to each other. The moment you are able to establish this equation, it's all good.
Precisely. So you picked up my next question, Anuj, in a way. So my next question was around, how do enterprises manage this new age of the cloud? Does it also demand a new approach to cloud management and optimization? Which
Absolutely. So let me put it this way. The millennials of today know mobile phone far better than us. Our kids know mobile phone far better than us. There's no denial on that. My son, who is in class 7th or 8th, knows Android phone far better than what I know. For me, it's about 4, 5, 6 application, maximum 7 application. He has got 100 applications installed on it, right? So point number one, our millennials are far more tech savvy than us. Number two, automation has, in COVID time, what has changed drastically, and that's what I've been observing, is the amount of innovation and automation people can do. What typically people would have never done that. People are simply doing it. And the simplest way to test, adopt, and roll it out is cloud infrastructure.
Yes.
They know the pros of each and every application. It's like a Play Store. So I can download this here. I can download from here. This is cheaper. That is cheaper. This has got more security. That has got less security on this particular, functional area. Or for SAP, this is the best one. Or for Dynamics, this is the best one. Or for Salesforce, this is the best one. They have got there on their tips. And they are the best. So the simple fundamental principle is you create an SSO and put, the concept of SD-WAN comes into picture. So you have an SD-WAN cloud,
right?
And you just hook onto it. So you create a SSO layer and you start plugging in everything over it, and it becomes very simple. What I'm just naming, just for the sake of understanding.
Yes. What
Amazon has got, Google doesn't have, besides bare metal hardware and virtual instances. What AWS has, Azure doesn't have. Right? From the cost perspective, you know where to optimize on Azure, you know where to optimize on AWS, where to optimize on Google Cloud, or for that matter, Oracle Cloud. Right? So you know the pros and cons of each and every one. You know what application would integrate. It's all about knowledge base. COVID time is the time where technology team members have studied the most. People never used to study. They used to come at 10 o'clock, 7 o'clock, shift over, Tata, bye-bye, back to home. COVID is the time where people study. And that's why technology and infosec is so much in demand in market nowadays, because people have actually studied this. And they have pulled out the best of the cloud in this era, in the last 2 years.
Right. Sumit, so again, we have a lot of choices out there in the market. You pick the best that suits your particular business and needs. Now, how does one manage the whole cloud estate, if I may call it so, so that they maximize on the innovation potential of the cloud as well?
I think it depends on the size of the company, the phase in which they are right now, whether they are like in early stage or they are in like already have reached to a product which is very mature, how many changes they are doing every day, the size and size of their infrastructure, various things. But I think what everybody is trying to do is that people understand that they don't want to stick to one cloud with various reasons. Could be they don't want to get logged in one provider. They lose on cost efficiency. It could be that they have some features of a cloud provider B which they like more than cloud provider A, and vice versa, right? So they need a mix. So now the challenge with using a hybrid providers where you're actually storing data at multiple clouds is cloud providers are getting intelligent, and they're saying they're putting restrictions, because when you're trying to put the data in, there's no cost. But when you're trying to pull the data out, there's a huge cost. So they don't want to promote hybrid cloud. They want you to be in their cloud, their ecosystem itself. So henceforth, the size of the environment, the stage at which you are in terms of your growth journey, I think it's very, very important. For a startup, I think the best way is to stick with one provider, to make an intelligent choice. Try to reduce like back and forth between two cloud providers. If you are, let's say, you want an AI of a provider B instead of a provider A, you obviously can choose that, but I think it's important for you to reduce that. But even if you do that, I think one has to still make a choice, because it's not just IaaS people are using now, right? There are people are using PaaS offerings, SaaS offerings, and various other offerings, and which makes the stickiness so high that the code actually becomes unusable if you move to a different cloud provider. So in the end, even if you actually have the best rates possible right now, this time, 3 years down the line, you will be actually this cost will actually have to pay multiple times for like multifold more, because your product is very, very, very sticky now. So I think it's about making the right choice. You want to be agile, you want to be fast, so you would like to use PaaS, but the idea is to make sure that you don't get stick. So adopt technologies like container. So even if you use a PaaS offerings of provider, your workloads are portable. You can use Kubernetes and then move your workloads from here to there. And try to make sure that you actually do not get into a locked-in situation in which you adopt to a module or a particular application which is only available, and your application actually highly depends on it. So I think that's what we suggest. And other than that, I think if you are a big enterprise, then I think the game completely changes, because then I think you cannot have eggs in one basket, right? You'll have to actually move and keep workloads in multiple places, and not just for resiliency, for security, compliance, and many other things. The cost becomes important, but it's not that important, but it's a very important factor if you actually have bills goes into millions of dollars every month. Now, but that's make things very, very complex, because on one end, you're trying to drive agility, in which you're trying to empower people to do whatever they want to do. On second end, you are trying to make sure they align with some minimal viable governance framework, right? Which they need to adhere to, right? And it's very difficult. It's that balance. I think everybody has their own balance, but it's a very difficult place to be in. And
these challenges, again, Sumit, are very different from your on-premises experience, right? So this is totally different.
Yes, it's like so complex that you need to be on top of the technology every day, because every cloud provider launches new features every month. Okay, so how do you even if you build a cloud orchestration layer yourself, or like even get a third party, it's almost impossible for you to keep it up with that particular. So you have to create your own governance framework and say, hey, I'm okay with these 5 risks, but I'm not okay with this 95.
Right.
So you have to draw a line, and that's very, very difficult, because you would like to continue to reduce your risk. But I think what we call shadow IT, I think shadow IT is something which you can only minimize. There is no way you can eradicate it any enterprise now.
Precisely, you cannot control and dictate who the businesses want to go with, Sumit, right? So it's their choice, and they have the freedom and flexibility to choose solutions. But in that scenario, and since you touched upon the shadow IT approach, is there a need for enterprises to create a cloud center of excellence? In that case, that can address these issues?
Well, it can, and it does. I think that's the reason many cloud providers also has, like AWS has cloud transformation templates. There are similar things available in um, other clouds as well. Um, but I think there are third-party providers which also provides you a cloud automation platforms which can help you orchestrate and run things, multiple things. But I think with cloud center of excellence, what the biggest people thing which I personally seek for is to reduce my training needs. So currently we actually use about 4 clouds and one on-prem. So it's like 5, right? So
Right.
I have not been able to get even one guy who actually has worked on all 5. The concept might be same, but I think when you try to use in a complex ecosystem like ours, you need deep hands on most of them, right? So how do you actually ensure that you are multiple cloud, hybrid cloud, and while continuing to reduce your cost, improving your security, reducing your risk exposure in this world is, I think, it's very, very difficult. So henceforth, I think the center of excellence helps you ensure by hiding the complexity of each cloud provider, by limiting it so that your tech users do not care. So from a customer's perspective, they'll just consume saying, okay, I'm provisioning my workloads. I don't care whether it goes on AWS or it goes on GCP. I have an option to choose because that's how we want to make sure they are empowered. They make the decision based on the cost or whatever factor they want. But we want to make sure they align and things are simplified and they're doing development in one standard way, which do not lock them in. And the training across the platforms becomes easy.
Anuj, your thoughts?
Okay, so, let me answer your first question first. The way the compliances of the world are changing, you have PIPL in China. It's a very, very tricky compliance. If you have gone through PIPL requirements, in US you have California law. European region has got GDPR. South American region has got South America compliance rules norms. The way this SOX audit and PC audit and IS audit used to happen. Auditors coming to office, looking into your premise, sitting down in a conference room, talking to you, and then you pass out the audits are no longer happening. We have done it, in 2020 and this year also audits. It doesn't happen that way now. These norms are so zonal centric that you have to be very cautious when you have got a domain and people working from across the globe. So the simplest option is, and the most available option is to adopt cloud. Where would you put your backup copy, right? Even if you put it on a fireproof vault, people don't care about fireproof vault any longer.
Right.
The definition of disaster has not changed completely. It's not about whether I'm putting it on fireproof vault or not. Nobody cares about it. These diseases are now more dangerous than fires and earthquakes and this and that, because these are, forced to measure, but the diseases are not forced to measure, right? So how do you fight that? So that has changed the norms of compliances completely. Auditors are more concerned about data residing in their zonal areas, and where are you keeping the copies of it? What if something goes wrong? How will you restore it? How will people, how people are going to access it and work on it, and so on and so forth. So that has changed so much so that whether it's one cloud or multi-cloud, cloud adoption has to happen. That's where the world is moving now. I could hardly see any application which is now on-premise centric, right? Anything which is on-premise, most of them, if you look into it from a holistic view, can be shipped onto cloud. You may lose something, you may gain something, but that can be shipped onto cloud. Or even if it is not on cloud, then you have to create some kind of DR or backup of it. And the available option is cloud. So that's
absolutely, yes.
The journey of cloud has to be adopted.
But so most of the enterprises that way, Anuj, are looking at the cloud first strategy. So if there is an application that can be moved to the cloud, they will not delay in doing that. So,
and more than that, the purchase processes have also changed. The world is struggling with chips nowadays, right?
yes.
You order I forgot about IT equipment. Even the car has got a waiting time of 6 months to 8 months or 1 year or so. Right? Devices are simply not available that you look into. Now, if I need a firewall, virtual firewall on cloud, the maximum time that I would need to provision it, I'm not saying configure it, to provision it is maximum 15 minutes, 10 minutes, you put on your credit card and here it is, available for you. The typical turnaround time for a firewall to raise a purchase request, you order it, it will go to some other place, it will come back is 3 to 4 months, bare minimum. Assuming you have the chips available and assuming that you have the hardware available, right? So people don't have time. Now, what has changed of late is about time. People simply don't have the patience. They don't have the time. Earlier, we used to say that a project is going to take 6 months, 8 months. They don't care about it now. They talk in hours now.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. So days and months have turned to hours. Now, when your time changes, then you have to adopt to something else, which is readily available. And what is readily available is on cloud.
Absolutely. Right. I have a final question, before we end this conversation. The ongoing crisis has also brought the edge data centers in the limelight. We are seeing many players beginning to deploy more edge data centers, considering the massive shift to home-based work, and that's creating new opportunities for distributed computing. How do you look at this trend? Anyone, please. Anuj, Sumit.
So, the thumbnail question, the primary question on audits used to be, where's your perimeter? When somebody asks me, where's your perimeter and what's your perimeter device? We say we don't have perimeters. Where is my perimeter? If my users are working from home, what goodness is, I don't reap any benefit out of my perimeter, right? People are sitting at their home.
Absolutely.
So my firewall is not in perimeter any longer. My firewall is walking with the user. The user today could be in Delhi, tomorrow he may take a flight and go to Bangalore, and tomorrow, day after tomorrow, he might be in Kashmir. My rules, policies have to travel with him. Wherever he go, whether he's on laptop or tab or mobile device. And millennials love this tabs and this and that. So it's not about bring your own device. It's now take security along with your device. Right? So security has to follow you. So there is no, and the only option you get is when you put your devices on the edge, right? Gone are the days where you used to protect everything inside a room and say, hey, within this confined area, I am secure.
Right.
That security is doing no good because there are no users, right? Where are users? Users are nowhere, right? And this Omicron and this next generation 22, God knows what will come next year, and God prevail sanity on us, but what is going to happen in 2022 or 23, we don't know. So what we have to do is that wherever user goes, whichever device he connects, whatever he does, the security has to follow him.
Absolutely. So in a way, we are living in a borderless enterprise to also work from anywhere, through any device. Sumit, any points that you would want to add here?
Yeah. I think edge data centers have been there for quite some time. I think they're just picking up a little bit more. Few of the reasons Anuj mentioned. I think traditionally we used to see them, and they are called CDN providers, right? So they always were sitting on the edge and delivering media like video or images through. I think that's what the predominant use was. I think one of the big reasons people are trying to deploy more edge data centers is that the need and consumption of media, especially people are working from home, has increased dramatically. I think you see that in OTT and how the numbers are growing, and they're continuing to grow even now. Another reason Anuj also already mentioned that there's a work from home in play. I think the third big reasons I feel is that people are trying to do more personalization. So I think what edge does is it brings compute closer to you. So henceforth, the latency becomes lower for any operation. So it's not that earlier I was just delivering media or images. Now I can stitch the custom content on the edge and give it to you. So imagine if it makes use cases like I can have a Times of India custom design for all 150 million users. Every single call can be custom made and custom fit for everyone. I think that's what yeah. So that's what it makes it possible, which is like huge, right? People want everything personalized toward them. Earlier, doing it on a cloud scale, we were doing it, but it was more of a bucket base. So we would map you one user to a bucket A, depending on various attributes, and so we'll have a limited set. Right now, with Edge, because the latency is lower, I think it opens up so many opportunities right now because of the reduced latency. And then obviously the rules related to IoT also comes in picture, because when you actually have IoT farms all across, I think you don't want to bring all the data all to the cloud, right? Why would you want to do that? You would like to compute it on the edge and deliver it. I think these uses also everybody realize. I think we see. I think the uptake on this particular industry, this particular segment, is at least 30 to 70% year on year, and this probably will continue to grow. Yeah, it will probably continue to grow for next 3 to 4 years. You can see it yourself how many data centers have come up in last 2 years and how many are planned in the next 3 years. So I think this is only continue to grow, not going to slow down, at least not in the next 3 years.
Right. Very insightful views there, Sumit. So, and a lot of learning as well. Thank you so much, Sumit and Anuj, for sharing your views. I guess I'll quickly summarize this conversation that we had. The manner in which organizations cloud now will surely define and align transformation across industries. The cloud, in some ways, has reinvented itself, and it is the future of not just corporate computing, but corporate survival as well. When you consider it offering high speed, agility, artificial intelligence, business continuity, and beyond. Thank you for your time, and thank you for watching. Stay tuned.